Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from all faiths, backgrounds, and places dealing with addictions of all varieties. RICO 12 is also a resource for loved ones of addicts. As we go through line by line through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous with David G. and Nikki M., we get to find a lot of solutions to the things that ail us in our lives, those issues, whether I'm an addict, identify as an addict, or a loved one of an addict, or just a human being trudging this road of happy destiny. I'm joined today by David G. and Nikki M. The three of us are living one day at a time in the miracle of recovery, and I'm grateful to have them here around this virtual roundtable with me. My name's Justin, by the way, and I am a child of an all-powerful, all-loving God and an addict. Let's take just a minute and have David and Nikki introduce themselves. David, go ahead. You're up first.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin, for your service as always. And Nikki, thank you so much for your service as well. My name's David G. from Oklahoma. I'm a recovered alcoholic addict of many sorts with a recovery date of August 8th, 1994. And I'm super excited to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Nikki, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. I am Nikki M., and I'm a real grateful member of this program. I'm just so excited to be here with, two of my favorite humans on the planet, David and Justin. Why? Because they understand me. I mean, it's that simple. I found my people. So I'm real grateful because lately I've been waking up with this monkey on my back, but today it's not here. So I'm just excited. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nikki. We're going to continue our snorkel through the Big Book, one page, one line at a time today. We're going to continue where we left off last time, which is in the chapter We Agnostics. We'll start off on page 53, the first full paragraph of page 53, which starts with logic is great stuff. And we'll read through about halfway down page 54 in the sentence that ends with living by faith and little else. In the meantime, all you out there in the listening world, please grab your fourth edition of your Big Book, open up to page 53, follow along with your pens, highlighters, paper markers, anything that comes to you, write it down and put it into action, because I believe that as we go through this, your higher power, my higher power, our higher power can speak to us and invite us into action, which is what this program is all about, connection with higher power and putting that into action. And so we're going to get started in the reading, and then we'll go and discuss some insights and some takeaways from this. All right. Logic is great stuff. We liked it, and we still like it. It is not by chance we were given the power to reason, to examine the evidence of our senses, and to draw conclusions. That is one of man's magnificent attributes. We agnostically inclined would not feel satisfied with a proposal which does not lend itself to reasonable approach and interpretation. Hence, we are at pains to tell why we think our present faith is reasonable, why we think it is more sane and logical to believe than not to believe, why we say our former thinking was soft and mushy when we threw up our hands in doubt and said, "We don't know." When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade, we had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What was our choice to be? Arrived at this point, we were squarely confronted with the question of faith. We couldn't duck the issue. Some of us had already walked far over the bridge of reason toward the desired shore of faith. The outlines and promise of the new land had brought luster to tired eyes and fresh courage to flagging spirits. Friendly hands had stretched out in welcome. We were grateful that reason had brought us so far. But somehow we couldn't quite step ashore. Perhaps we had been leaning too heavily on reason that last mile, and we did not like to lose our support. That was natural, but let us think a little more closely. Without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith? For did we not believe in our own reasoning? Did we not have confidence in our ability to think? What was that but a sort of faith? Yes, we had been faithful, abjectly faithful to the God of reason. So, in one way or another, we discovered that faith had been involved all the time. We found, too, that we had been worshipers. What a state of mental gooseflesh that used to bring on. Had we not variously worshipped people, sentiment, things, money, and ourselves? And then, with a better motive, had we not worshipfully beheld the sunset, the sea, or a flower? Who of us had not loved something or somebody? How much did these feelings, these loves, these worships have to do with pure reason? Little or nothing, we saw at last. Were not these things the tissue out of which our lives were constructed? Did not these feelings, after all, determine the course of our existence? It was impossible to say we had no capacity for faith, or love, or worship. In one form or another, we had been living by faith and little else. All right, so there's a lot in this reading here. In fact, the last time I went through the big book with my sponsor, these pages were something that had really changed my life. And I'm still trying to really grasp and figure out exactly what it means. But I look forward to hearing what David and Nikki have to say. David, why don't you take a minute and walk us through what we just read and give us some deeper insights into it?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very, very powerful part of the book. This is where it really begins to show us what our problem is. And you've heard me say it all along, if the problem is drinking, drugging, sex, lust, food, then just don't do that. And there shouldn't be any more problem. But every time I stop doing that, the problem shows up, and it's in the mind. And this page these pages really begin to identify that. It's going to show us with the things that you read here today, how self and self's will is really what the trouble is here. And once I can understand that, then I don't really have to fight anymore. What I have to do is turn to God of my choosing here. And see, this whole chapter is dedicated to step 2. And step 2 is not asking us to believe in God. I go to meetings and hear that all the time. You talk about step 2, that's all they talk about is their belief in God. This entire chapter has not done that one time. Not one time has it said this is how, you have to believe in God in order to get better. What it said is we might want to take a look at changing our beliefs in the God we already have. Because for some reason, that's not working. I'm praying to God, I'm doing this, I'm doing all these things that I've been taught to do, and hell, I'm getting worse, not better. What's wrong with that picture? And so it's logical that I would believe that way because that's the way I was taught. I was brought up, even in Alcoholics Anonymous for 25 years. There was a certain way that I got sober from alcohol and drugs. But you know what? That way didn't work for lust and work for sex. It was different. I went through the steps exactly as I went through them to stop drinking and stop using over and over and over, and I just couldn't get better. And I thought, what the hell is wrong? I'm going to plenty of meetings, I'm working with plenty of guys, I'm doing all this and that. And someone said, why don't you look at your beliefs? And I never did that. Now, you read it here today. Logic is great stuff. We liked it. We still like it. It's not by chance that we were given the power to reason. That's a gift, according to that sentence right there. We are given that power. Then why in the hell does it elude me? When I look up the definition to the word power, it's just the power of the mind to think, understand, and form judgment. That's all it is. But when that's turned around and something else takes control of that, called self, then I begin to have a different experience, and it's not a very good one. And I can't seem to recover from that because I keep focusing on not acting out anymore sexually. I keep focusing on not drinking anymore. I'm not drugging anymore, or all this stuff. I'm focusing on the wrong damn thing. That's not what caused my issue. That's the issue, but that's not what caused the issue. What caused the issue is self. And it says it's not by, that we were given this power to examine the evidence of our senses. That's what we do in step 10 now in a different way. Draw conclusions. We do that every single day. But am I doing that with a treated mind or an untreated mind? That becomes the question. That's one of man's magnificent attributes. It just is. That's God-given. So we agnostically inclined would not feel, key word, satisfied with a proposal which does not lend itself to reasonable approach and interpretation. Of course I would. So we're at pains to tell why our present faith is reasonable and why we think it more sane, logical to believe than not to believe when we say that our former thinking, see, not our current, but our former thinking was soft and mushy. See, that don't say a damn thing about using, drinking, acting out, eating. Our former thinking was soft and mushy. When we threw up our hands in doubt and said we don't know, and that's exactly where I was at in 2019. It's like, I don't know. After 25 years, I honestly don't know. But this paragraph is where it really starts hitting home. People tell me all the time, David, I was born alcoholic. I was born an addict. I don't know if you were. I don't really care if you was. My book says, no, I'm not. And it tells me right here in them 4 words. When we became alcoholic, not when I was born one, when I became one. So eventually along the way, somewhere I became one. And here's how I became one. I was crushed by self-imposed crisis. And used to, when I would read that, I thought that I had imposed that crisis up on myself. But that's not what that sentence is saying. It's saying that is an imposition of self. And when that worry, that fear, that resentment, that hate come down on me, I had no way to deal with it. I turned to alcohol for relief, and I became an alcoholic. I wasn't born that way. I can guarantee I wasn't born alcoholic, and I doubt many are. Same way with being an addict. It says, hell, we can't postpone or evade. I can't put it off for 2 weeks, or I can't run to Washington or wherever. And I can't evade self, because everywhere I go, there I am. So I'm going to fearlessly have to face the proposition. That sounds like a footstep to me. That God either is everything or else he is nothing. And I mean everything. And so either is or isn't. What's our choice to be? If you remember on page 24, it told us that we had lost the power to choose whether we would drink, act out, whatever it is. But here's our choice. And my sponsor asked me this question. David, I'm going to ask you this. What is your choice to be? Either God is or he isn't. I said, well, of course he is. And he said, has he always been since you got sober? And I said, yes. He said, so your choice has always been that God is everything? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, what about the times you were acting out with somebody other than your wife? What was God that day? The times that you bullied people in meetings and you overtook it and held it hostage and just had your way. What was God that day? And holy shit, for the first time, I had to really admit, God was nothing. Self was everything. Only I wasn't consciously aware of that. So this choice on page 53 is not a one and done. It's a daily. What is my choice today? Either God is or he isn't. If I wake up and I'm scared and I'm afraid and there's not really nothing going on, but I'm trying to run the show and get out of fear, what's my choice really? Is God everything today or is he nothing? Because if I'm trying to put out fires, then that's self. So I love this. It's going to talk about our fellowship here. Arrived at this point, we're squarely confronted with the question of faith. And I thought I had faith all along, and I did. It was just channeled in the wrong direction, and this is going to make that very clear. Some of us had already walked far over the bridge of reason. Look at that capital R. We're talking about self here. To the desired shore of faith. We're talking about the fellowship. I came from a beating into the rooms. Now the outline and the promise of the new land, talking about the fellowship, brought lustre. That word just means a soft glow to tired eyes and fresh current, flagging spirits. Remember when we first came in, everybody was holding up a white flag. I give up, I give up, I give up. Sat in those rooms for about 3 months, and I'm tired of their shit. I don't want to hear it anymore. I got better things to do. I got to work. I got this, I got that. And next thing you know, I'm back out the door. Well, here's what they did. Friendly hands stretched out and welcome. People held out their hand and said, David, welcome. We were grateful that reason with capital R, meaning ego, self, had brought us this far. It brought me there. It did. But somehow I couldn't quite step ashore. You heard me say this many times. Come all the way in and set all the way down. And this is where I get that from, is this sentence right here. Because sometimes we come all the way in, we just don't set all the way down. Why? Because I've been leaning too heavily on reason. I don't seem to know any better that last mile, and I don't like to lose my support. I'll feel weak. What are they going to think about me in the meetings? They're going to laugh at me. They're going to see that I had to come back and I had to tell the truth about my sexual sobriety date. It's not what I originally said it was. I've been lying to you guys. I'm so sorry, And my ego's saying, no, don't do that, David. We can reason this out. It's going to be all right. Don't do that. People will disrespect you. They won't listen to you. And I got to the point where I said, I don't give a shit. I'm never going to get any better if I don't. Look what this says. God. And I've done I even done a podcast on Rico 12 with this one time. That was natural, but let us think a little more closely. And anytime I see those words, let's think a little more closely. I might need to think a little more closely about what he's going to say without knowing. And see, I don't even know this is happening. Have I not been brought to where I stood by a certain kind of faith? I always thought that meant faith in God. No, that's talking about faith in self, faith in the God of reason, capital R. That's where I've been brought to, and I don't even know it. For did not we believe, keyword, in our own reasoning? That's the problem. Did we not have confidence in our ability to, keyword here, to think? Yeah, I've had confidence in my ability to do that. How's that worked out for me so far? Now it's pretty damn good, but at the time it's pretty painful. But here, look at these, what is that, 7, 8 words? What is that but a sword of faith? So you see, I've always had faith. It's just been channeled in the wrong direction. I've had faith in self and the God of reason. Even when I pray, God, help me be a better husband. God, help me be a better father. Help me be a better member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Help me be a better son. Notice how many times me is mentioned in prayers. I would think that was good prayers. I really, really would. But it's not so that I can do all that thing for them. It's so that everybody will see how great of a son, how great of a father, how great of a husband. You'll respect me. You'll love me. You'll like me. Me. Hell, that's the power of reason with capital R. We found too, we've been worshipers. Boy, that used to piss me off when I'd read that. I'm like, I am not a worshiper. I said, oh yeah, I see you flashing money around quite a bit. I see you hanging out, working extra hours, making all this money doing this. I said, yeah, I think you worship money. You seem to be spending that on things that are not moral. You seem to worship some other things there too. And look at these questions. Have we not variously worshiped people? Question. Sentiment? Question. Things? Question. Money? Question. Ask yourself these questions. Have I done that? And then with a better motive, look, self will turn it the other way. Oh, well, we'll look at the sunset, the sea, the flower. In 2005, we went on a cruise, a Carnival cruise, and oh, yeah, I just laid out there and watched the sun and thought I was so spiritual. And then I'd go downstairs in the luster after all the women at the bar, even though I wasn't drinking. And then I'd pick one of them up and tell my wife, go shopping for a while. Here's $1,000. Go do whatever you want to do. And I would be somewhere with one of these women. Yeah. So, but look at this. How did these feelings, keyword, God, look at this so closely. These loves, these worships have to do with pure reason. In other words, what did that have to do with spirit, really? Little or nothing. See, these things are all good if they're used in the right way, but they're just guidance. They're not the real deal. And I can take and make it. But this is probably one of the most important sentences that you read, Justin. Were not these things the tissue about of which our life were constructed, these feelings, these issues, you see, I'm focusing on that and all these other things to try to overcome that. And none of that's working. These feelings, they determine the course of my existence. Had I been relying upon a power greater than myself, had my beliefs changed through the spiritual terms exercise and the bedevilments, those feelings wouldn't have determined the course of my existence. The spirit would have. And so my existence got pretty ugly. It's impossible to say we had no capacity for faith, love, worship, because in one form or another, we've been living by faith and little else. It was just the wrong kind of faith. Today, it's the right kind of faith. Today, I know what the problem is. I know what the solution is. And I've had a very, very deep experience with my God over the last 6, 8 months. My entire life has changed completely. And I've been through this book as many times as anybody I know in 30 years. And I tell you, it's only now that I've really, really become aware of how to live each and every principle in the book. This is powerful, guys. It's life-changing. So can't wait to hear Nikki. Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate it.
David, thank you for diving into that. And I will definitely have a question or two for you when we get to that point. Nikki, talk to us a little bit about what you pull out of the reading from today.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, David did more than a snorkel. He did a deep dive on every line. So it's going to be, I'll just give most of my experience, strength, and hope, because I mean, this is We could sit here for days. Actually, we could just sit here for an hour on each line. Like, it's just crazy. So here it is. It's not by chance that Nikki, David, and Justin have been given. See, that goes to page 83. God gave us brains. So what are you using your brains for? We've been given power to reason. And it's when David gave his definition, my line out says to think, to understand, and to form a judgment. See, God gave me brains to use. I need to use these brains that God gave me. I mean, I love this thing too. Man's magnificent attributes. My line out says, I'm special. Like, I don't think we're realizing back in the book, it's going to say in some of the stories on page 420, we have a magic magnifying mind. See, I've been using my mind for all the wrong things. I've been using my body, my spirit, and soul for all the wrong things. I just love this part. It's like, I'm so special. I didn't even realize it. And just like David just said, I'm just waking up to this. I didn't realize this before. You know, I love this where it says, hence we are at pains. Remember, the people who came before us, and I find myself doing that, and I know that the three of us are doing this right now for anyone listening. We're begging you. We're urging you. Literally, it pains us. Like, we want you to know. That's what these people are telling us, you know, about their experience, strength, and hope, that this does work. Because I love what David said here, and I have it highlighted and God's just all mucked up. My former thinking was soft and mushy. If I think about it, I wasn't thinking. I was asleep in life. I am just now at 50 years old, waking up. This is radical. Like, it's actually scary how asleep not only I am, but the people I love are. I'm looking around the world. People are in their soft and mushy thinking. And no one's saying we don't know, because my arrogance, my need to play God is so prevalent everywhere I go. And I'm watching it with everyone I know. So there it is. My sponsor, one of my sponsors says, when I don't know, I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, when I know that I don't know, that's when I'm ready to learn, or that I don't know. It's like it's the Chinese farmer story. I don't know. I don't know. Even today, I don't know anything. And then, of course, this paragraph, and David went through it, so I'm just going to kind of skim on these things. This is a black or white program. Nikki, no, it's not. Yeah, it is. God is everything or God is nothing. Love is everything or love is nothing. Fear or faith. This is real radical. This is real. My line out says black or white every day. And when it says, what is your choice to be? I put what is above RNM, my choice to be, Nikki M. And I wrote it. God is everything. And as David said, every day you got to decide that. Every day is love. Am I going to be in this full energy of love, this vibration of love, or am I going to choose hate? It's that simple, black and white. You know, and the next paragraph, my line out says page 52, friendly hands. Yes, everybody, there's a substitute. And it's vastly more than that. It's the friendly hands of everyone. When I go into most rooms, some rooms don't stretch out their hands, people. They'll go, oh, Nikki, you have another kind of problem. You shouldn't be in here. I'm going to say bullshit. My book says that everybody's welcome if they suffer the disease of alcoholism. So make sure you're armed with the facts. And bottom paragraph, think. But let us think a little more closely. Well, if you know me, I'm a hardcore fantasy addict. And I like to think about laying around in a toga with all my friends, eating grapes and figs and just talking about God. See, that's my dream fantasy life. I'm doing it here at the table, but I'm not in a toga outfit right now. And neither are the boys, you guys. We're all dressed in normal street clothes, talking about God. This is awesome. Like, I just want to think more closely about God and how I'm magically, mystically designed, and not just by chance, that I was given, laser designed by this power with the ability to think. Think about what? Think about how much I want to worship God. I'm on page 54 now. See, I want to worship God because I worship men and money. And guess what I worship most of? David knows and Justin knows. Me. I worship me. What about me? Poor me. Why me? What about me? Me. So my line out says, worship God. Because see, that's embarrassing to worship things. But you guys tell me when I come in here, Nikki, you're worshiping men. You're worshiping money. You threw your kids out for money. You threw your kids out for a man. Nikki, worship God. Worship God. See, love is the only real thing. David went so eloquently through all of this, Justin, that I'm going to end here. I don't want to take up much more time, but it's like these feelings are fake news. The only feeling I'm to have, and I'm so grateful to be here because I need this reminder every day. Love God. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Man, there's so much stuff in here. We could probably do 2 or 3 episodes just on this reading. But one thing I want to do is just ask a question to each of you, and we'll see how we can make this question fit in with the time. This may be a longer episode, and I'm okay with that if that's what it needs to be, because there's so much important stuff in here. So, David, one of the biggest changes in my recovery was when I realized that the God of my understanding was a small g God, and I had to make that God a capital G God in order to for that God to be powerful enough. But on this page, the capital R reason and the small r reason are flip-flopped, and that blew my mind. Talk to us a little bit about the difference between the capital R reason, which you talked about being self, and the small r reason, which would be, submitting to God in that. Help us understand that a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, absolutely. The capital R for so long I missed that's what the ego, that's what self does. It wants to reason out every problem. It wants to come up with a solution that is temporary. It's, I just didn't realize that. And at the bottom of 53, it talks about when we obtain this awareness, then it changes to the little r. So that means that my reasoning now is more as it should have been from the beginning, where you read at the top of the page there, that we were given the power to reason. And if you notice right there, there's a little r. So if we were given that power by love, as Nikki so beautifully described, then that's what real reason is. Examine the evidence of our senses, come up with natural conclusions, overcome these things. It's no longer a big deal. I forgive you. You made a mistake. You forgive me. I made a mistake. All is well. I love you. Let's move on. And today I'm able to do that for sure. But before, it would be like, you know what? I do forgive you, but you owe me, And so for me, I don't know. I just become aware of self. And all through the rest of this book, they've been hinting at it all the way up to here, but now it's going to take a very deep dive into what this self is and what it looks like. And I think that we've seen it there on page 54, the capital R, these loves, these worships, these feelings, we've talked about it all through here, the ideas, the concepts, the beliefs, the attitudes. That's reason with the capital R. Now, when I see those things for what they are and I'm able to turn from them, and I'm able to turn to you and say, brother, I love you, man. Please forgive me if I've hurt you for anything that I've done. I was wrong, and I need you to know that I was wrong, and I need you to know that I stand willing to do anything I can to make it right. Then I begin to live with the little r of reasoning. I'm beginning to reason in the way, the power that was given to me. I've now examined the evidence of my senses. I've drawn the correct conclusion. I'm living in that magnificent attribute, and it's just a powerful thing. So awareness is really the key here. Once I'm aware of the two, and I've been through this process. Now I can't stop right here and say, okay, I'm aware of this now. And, I don't need to move any further. No. Step one is the problem. Step two is the solution. But without the other 10 steps, I promise you, the solution won't be permanent. We'll fall back into the problem, which is self, and go back to sleep, and then begin to do all kinds of crazy shit and think it's the crazy shit that has us, but it's not. We fell back asleep to self. Now we're living back with a capital R once more. So that's kind of my outlook on that. Like you said, man, I could go so deep into this, but I don't want to eat at the time to do that. I hope that's a significant answer. Thanks, Justin.
Great answer, David. And sometime, David, I'll have you on Rico 12 again. We're going to dive into, if you're willing to do this, dive into that capital R and small r for a lot longer period of time, because I think it's super, well, selfishly, it's something I really want to see even more clearly. Nikki, the question I have for you is based on the comment you made that this is a black and white program. Either God is everything or God is nothing. Love is everything or love is nothing. Let's go a little bit deeper there. It's so much out in the world. It's shades of gray. Shades of gray are all that I see, Talk to me about the importance and the power of the black and white thinking.
Wow, that's a great question. Well, because for me, if I have any little wiggle room as an addict, I'm going to take it. Remember, I can't differentiate between the true and the false. My addict life, my abnormal selfish thinking is my only normal one. See, every day I need to smash the idea that I'm like anyone on the planet. That's why step 11, that's why, okay, let's just go back. When David said, stay, and you and I have adapted and adopted that slogan, stay. Don't just keep coming back, stay. Why? Because it says limitless expansion. See, I'm only on this planet for it's like a fart in the wind. It's like a sneeze, a cough, that I'm here for a blip. I want to spend my time seeking this power, and I've been asleep for so long. So this is really black and white, that God is everything. And why is that? Because it says right here on page 53, we couldn't duck the issue. What issue, Nikki? That I'm beyond human aid, that nothing on this planet is going to help me, that I need to be rocketed into another dimension that is beyond, it's I can't even put it into words. Think about this. Why what you guys are talking about, we could be here for hours just on talking. How about we could be here for years, Justin, just talking about God being everything or nothing. It's just so radical. And I think that's why are we here? That question of why do I exist? Now, the book says my purpose, and we're going to read it soon, is to serve God and God's people. That's why this is very black and white. There's only one reason I'm on the planet. There's only one reason I exist, and that's to love. And what David just said, I got to say, sorry, I love you to my neighbor, forgive my neighbor, and move on. That's the reason I need to stay here, because I can't do that in this moment. See, I'm still in my human form some days, and I'm a spearhead. I'm in the spirit world. I'm not like the humans. I've smashed the idea, but the reality of it is, if I don't do this every minute, and right now, if I don't do it every hour on the hour, because I'm in a resentment with the neighbors, everyone, if you've been listening the last few weeks, that's what's eating my soul these days, or I'm allowing it to, is that every day I've got to be here and make this choice that I'm going to love these people no matter what. That is not easy to do. So I'm going to stay here, and Justin and David are going to reach out their friendly hands and hold me, so I can make this choice daily, that God is everything or God is nothing. I hope that answers the question. It's got to be that radical for this weirdo.
I tell you, the experience, strength, and hope that's being shared today is very powerful, and it's compressed because we're covering a lot of deep stuff. But man, thank you so much for opening our eyes just a little bit, a glimpse to these things. I'm going to share my takeaway today first before I go into your takeaways. My takeaway is that my whole life, the words worship, the words faith, the word God have always been put in a box that this is only positive things. But as we've read through this, have I not variously worshiped people, sentiment, things, money, myself? That's a bad worship. That is a worship that is not going to get me where I need to be. And that's the capital R, God of reason, that is worshiping those things. Faith in self, that is not the helpful thing. And that's my takeaway from this, is that shift of not making those words bad, but seeing that those words have been kidnapped, usurped by the self to justify self's actions and motives. All right, David, what's a takeaway you have from today's conversation and reading?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful to be here and to be into this part of the book with you too. And for me, it has to be, what was our choice to be? And if you're listening today and you say, hey, I've made this choice every day, but my life doesn't seem to get better, it's okay to make a different choice. It just is. I didn't realize that. See, the God with a capital R tells me, no, you can't do that. You know, this is the way it is. You deviate from that, you burn in hell the rest of your life, all this crazy shit. Nah, hell's not a place I go. It's a place I'm at. And either I am, and it's the same way. It's just a term with heaven or whatever it may be. So for me, this is a daily choice. Today, God, I choose you. Today, God, I choose me. Today, God, I choose my wife. And today, God, I choose my job, and I choose the fellowship of recovery. And it's in that order because of what's on page 19. A much more important demonstration of these principles lie before us in 1, our homes, 2, our occupations, and 3, our affairs. If you've got that turned around, you're doing your affairs first. You're doing recovery second, leaving your home last. You're out of order. You're out of balance. Make a different choice. Do what the book says to do, and we will have a life that's beyond anything you could ever imagine. I know, because God willing, next week, and I know he is, I'll be coming up on 30 years in the program. 25 of those were pretty damn sleepy, and some of it in between, but I can promise now, because I never gave up. I continued making different choices. I made mistakes. I ended up having to say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. You know, I need to make another choice here. So what God either is or he is. Thanks so much, Justin.
And thank you, David. And we're excited for you for the 30 years here coming up next week. Nikki, what's a takeaway that you have?
Wow, there's so many. My brain's exploding. But if you're listening, and David, 30 years, yes, you are there, and this is just a miracle. If you want a miracle like David, if you are like me and you worship penises, paychecks, and Pop-Tarts, there is a solution. Today, I worship forgiveness, humility, contentment, gratitude, responsibility, kindness, patience, faith, love, and acceptance. There are answers here. That's my takeaway.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David and Nikki. This was this was a fantastic dive into these pages. If you out there in the listening world need to dive deeper into these things, well, I know I need to dive deeper into this. I'm grateful that God will constantly disclose more to me and to you as we trudge this road of happy destiny. Keep on this path. I had a sponsee reach out to me yesterday and say, if I just keep doing this over and over again, isn't it going to get banal and boring and everything? It's not. If I am in the right frame of mind, God will constantly disclose more to me and to you. So keep coming back, come all the way in, sit all the way down, and stay. Work it. You are worth it.